Yo guys, Dominic here, and today I'm going to show you how I made the Afterglow remix, which is out now on Sony Music. So if you haven't heard it yet, it sounds like that. Alright, so here's the project, and we just start off with the break.
I told my mama, yeah, it's over now. He spent the weekend at his brother's house.
So obviously there's the vocal.
I told my mama, yeah, it's over now.
And then I added a piano, which I do on like all of my tracks. It's a lapse piano and a contact piano, and here you have different velocities for all the notes. I used my piano over there to record everything, and then I just quantized the notes a little better. For external processing, there's one OTT and an EQ. I'm just cutting off some of the low end. For both of them, I use this one for side chaining, actually this one. I have another EQ, the Gil Glaze plugin, and the stereo imager. So then I have a crash and a low impact. Some ambient sounds. This one is even from the original track, so it's a stem I received from Gil Glaze. So as you can hear, the first part of the break is just basically a piano and the vocal, so it starts very acoustic. And then in this part I added some more elements just to give it some more power. So we have of course a bass consisting out of a sub bass from Serum. Then we have the mid bass, which is actually an acoustic bass in the Contact library, and together they give this sweet bass sound. Then of course the piano once again. And then I added some symphony. So I added those lower notes, which are kind of the bass here. Another one for the mid spectrum. Then I have the chords. And here I automated the volume so that they will fade in slowly and then become louder. And I have this, oh, this is actually from Flex, some kind of ARP. So all together they are building a lot of energy just before the pre-drop, or let's say the build-up, comes in. Then I added different drums, a combination of my own samples which I did and some more from Kashmir. And for the ambient sounds I started adding this one, which you can hear in all of my tracks. And I also added silent guitar, and I did some one-shots from a Nexus piano, the Brilliant Piano Soft. And as you can hear, I added a huge delay there, and also a lot of reverb, stereo enhancing, and this one is a panning, so the sound is very wide. You can hear it panning right, left, and the reverb puts it in its own space. So together. And here I removed all the instruments except of the symphony. Like, it builds it up really well, but it stops just before the pre-drop. So that's the build-up. New elements are the guitars. There is on one time a contact guitar. It's kind of a rock guitar here. I thought that it fits. Then we have an original stem. And another guitar, which is, I think, from Splice. So together the guitar sounds like this. Then I added a pad. It's a silent pad from my sound bank. And here for the pad I just automated the pitch bend, the cutoff filter and the volume, because as soon as I open up the cutoff filter, the sound gets louder and you don't want it. And for the second part, I just added the same sub bass as before. You hear the vocal here, where it goes up, and I just thought it needs some kind of lead support, so I added those small lead notes from a serum package. It's just a small thing, but together with the vocal, where do we go now? Then I added some more drum loops and crashes once again. And for the ambient sounds, I just added another sample, and here even more in the second part, more crashes and uplifters, and of course the drum build-up, which is actually from another track. So altogether it sounds like this. So onto the drop. I started the drop actually in another arrangement. I just took the original track and cut it off at certain parts. Then of course I added some effects. I took out all the low frequencies. I added a tiny bit of Camel Crusher. I used a filter, probably not here, but yeah, I just automated this filter during the track. Then of course sidechain and a stereo imager to put it very wide in the track. And then for me the most important thing is to get to the ID very quick, and then at the end I can work on details. So I just added a drum loop and a kick. Then I had this one. So you already can hear where it's going. Then I added some basic chords, which then sounded like this. So together you can already get the idea of what it sounds like right now. So I thought it might be cool to have a remix in this kind of style. If you haven't heard my set remix yet, go check it out, because it's in the same style and I thought this would fit this one very well. So I then started to create the drop with all the details. So of course a bass line once again. I think it's the same sub bass as we had before, and then for the mid bass I just added different layers from silent and also the acoustic bass once again. So the bass line by itself. So what I did there, I added different layers. And then I played with the effects such as tape stop, filter, the volume. Yeah, for the mid bass I took out the low frequencies because they are covered by the sub bass. The fruity balance is just taking out the volume here. Then the filter, another EQ, and then there's this stuttering effect, which I will explain when it comes to the chords, because they use the same one, and of course sidechain. And then here we go with the chords. I did the same thing with the filter and the volume part here, and I added just a few extra layers. So we have this one from Serum, then one we had before, I think. It's not this one, but then it will be this one. Yeah, exactly. Then we go to the leads, which just come in at the second part of the drop. They just support the top melody from the vocal chops. And the leads, they just add up to that. For the leads, I just used 4 layers, a whistle sound, this drop plucker from Avenger, and another one Avenger. So honestly speaking, the lead by itself sounds pretty whack in my opinion. But together with the chords and the vocal chops, they really give you that extra layer. And then for the drums, I just used a kick drum. I used my drum loop, which I did in the Funny remix. Drum build up here again. And that's it for the drop. So the drop is pretty simple. So then we have the second break, where I just added some more stems from the original track, those blocks for example, and a snare, and in the second part with hi-hats plus a kick drum. So all the light blue samples are stems from the original track. And I just changed the chords from the piano a little bit to fit those blocks. And I added this sound, which makes like the difference here. It's just a Kashmir sample from Splice. So the rest is more or less the same. I added the bass, the symphony, different ambient sounds, and then we have the same build-up as we had before the first drop. And then the drop comes once again, and normally let's say the normal arrangement is that you have a break, then you have a drop, then you have a second break, a second drop, and that's it. And here I added the drop for the second time, but just for 8 bars. And then we have this special part. I always call it the bridge, which sounds like this together with the vocal. So what I did here is I used parts of the vocal. And then I did this one with the same instruments as we have in the drop, but I just played some other notes. So we have the chords, they sound like that. And there comes the one effect I was talking before. It is this one, where the chords slow down. So it's just an effect inside of Grossbeat, which is a plugin from FL Studio itself. And the interesting thing here is that I have the chords. I removed the high notes from this one because I wanted to automate the pitch bend on just the high ones. So if I did not automate this one, it would sound like this. But with those pitch bends, it sounds like this. And at the end, I just panned them left and right. And the bass line is just following the chords. So let's hear the drums together with the atmospheric sounds. So it's just a bunch of samples. This one gives the chords its own character. Because together with the chords, it actually sounds like as if those chords were triggering that kind of effect. Whereas it is just this sample I found on Splice. So, but yeah, I really like this part in the remix. And then for the third drop, it's just, yeah, the same as we had before, with the vocal added at the very first part. That's mainly the only difference. So that's it for the remix. I did a little more processing on the vocal in a second project where I also did the mastering. But I think that's the project where you see most of it, or let's say most of the important stuff. Let me know if you have any questions regarding this project or any other of my productions, and I try to answer them. So yeah, I hope this one was helpful for you. Big shout out also to Gil Glaze for believing in that remix and making it an official one. And yes, hopefully see you next time.